Hey friends, welcome to your week 18 foundations class. Today's class is going to sort of be centered on things we can do to help back pain in pregnancy. You will need a rolled up towel or pillowcase, shirt, whatever you have, something that can make a little roll, and some sort of ball. If you don't have a fancy myofascial ball, you could use a tennis ball. A lacrosse ball would be a little bit hard. You could also go to like the kids section of Walmart and find something there. I would recommend getting one of these legit ones at some point, but use what you have today. You could also use a water bottle, something like that. All right, so we are gonna get started laying on our backs. And we're gonna massage our QL, our quadratus lumborum muscle. This is a muscle that is a link between your pelvis and your ribs. So one of the attachments is on your pelvis and one of it is on the lower ribs going into the spinous processes of your lumbar vertebrae. So kind of runs like this. And this muscle can get really tight and kind of overworked, just like our erector spinae. So if you ever find that this is too much, go ahead and do this rolling out on the wall, and the lack of gravity pushing down will make it a lot less intense. But we are going to find our iliac crest, which is the wing shape of our pelvis. So find that on you, and then move just up from there, and that's where you're gonna place the ball. And then lay kind of down onto your back and side. You could use a little pillow underneath your head if you want. Maybe open and close your top knee. Both knees are bent. Taking good, deep rib breaths, back body breaths. And then from here, reach your hand behind you, your top hand, and hold onto the ball and kind of shimmy the ball side to side. So we're pinning down some of that tissue and then maybe bringing it in towards our spine and out towards our waist and twisting side to side. Good. Roll around a little bit closer to your spine and then find an interesting spot. One that you can still breathe in and talk in, but one that you feel, oh, that's definitely massaging. And then take a little baby side bend. So kind of hugging your pelvis up and then down. And then a tuck, a pelvic tuck. So curling under, arching back. Another 30 seconds or so to just play around or to stay still in one spot. Slow, calm breaths. Perfect. We're gonna switch sides. I'm going to have my back facing you this time, so if you're curious what I was doing back there. So find the top of your pelvis and then go just above that where you feel the muscle and a little bit lateral. So not right on the spine, but a little bit out to the side. And then place the ball there. Roll onto your left side now. First, maybe open and close your right knee up towards the sky, or rock onto left hip and then back. Finding a good spot to work with first. Breathe here for a few breaths. Good, now reach back with your top arm, your right arm. Hold on to the ball and twist it side to side. So we're first pinning down that muscle tissue and then maybe dragging it in towards our spine and out towards our waist. And then twirling side to side. Literally just massaging back there. Good, find another spot to work on. And then here, we're gonna take our little side bends. So like you're doing a little dance with your hips side to side. And then pelvic tuck. So under and arching, tucking under and arching. And then 30 seconds left to just stay still if you're in a good spot, or wiggle around more. Try to breathe into the back of the ribs. So there's a bunch of different causes for back pain in everyday life, everyday people, plus pregnant people. And honestly, it might not even matter what the cause is as much as there are a few things that pretty much can help everyone. So that's what we're gonna focus on today. But, release the ball. Overworked muscles can definitely be one of them, so massaging never hurts. Also, what never hurts is working on hip mobility. So if we rely too much on our back to bring us into flexion and rotation, if we have super tight hips, then that is never a good idea either. So hip mobility, stay on your back. Bring or plant your left foot down, bring your right knee up so that your shin is parallel to the sky. You can place your hands on your hips and ribs just to make sure you're staying nice and even, you're not arching and dumping and side bending. So I like to place fingertips on my hip bone and thumbs on my lower ribs. Now from here, we're just gonna rotate through our hips. So bring your heel, your right heel, in towards your left knee, and then swivel it like a windshield wiper out to the right. So this is pure hip rotation. Your femur bone in the socket of your pelvis. Ball in socket. So just swiveling side to side. Maybe you get to your end range of motion and you hold there. You might feel some cramping in your hip muscles. And then bring your foot out. Find your end range internal rotation and hold there. Cramp, cramp, cramp. Good, release. Switch them out, plant your right foot. Bring your left knee up into your chest. Shin is parallel to the sky. Pelvis and ribs are stable. And then bring your left foot in towards your right knee. Bring your left foot out to the side. I also don't want you to change where your left knee is in space. So it should pretty much be pointing up to the sky in the same place the whole time. And just wiping back and forth. I have a less internal rotation on this side. Very common to have imbalances. Good. This next time that your foot goes in, hold that end range of motion for a couple seconds. See if you can bring your left heel even further in towards your body. Good. Now bring it out to the side as far as you can. Push even further and release. All right. Next, grab your towel roll of whatever sort you have. I think we've talked about this before, but it is natural for our spine to have curves. We naturally curve in at the neck, cervical spine, a little bit out in our thoracic spine, and then back in at the lower back. This is our natural curve of our spine. When we start growing a belly and our center of gravity shifts, all of that can kind of change our spine, because it can change where our muscles are attaching and how our diaphragm is functioning and all this stuff. A common thing to see, instead of a nice gradual lumbar lordotic curve, is that at your T12L1 junction, you might have more of a hinge point there. So the inward curve moves up a little bit and it's more of like a hinge at one point. To find this, you can find your very lowest ribs and then trace them up and in to your back. It's basically at the very bottom of your sports bra too, is another way to think about it. So this area can get stuck right here. This is what we're gonna target. And what we wanna do, since it tends to be hinged in extension, is we're gonna relearn how to flex there. So that's where we're gonna place our towel roll, basically at the back of your sports bra. All right, so from here, both feet are planted, knees are up towards the sky. Stretch your fingertips up to the sky, palms are facing each other. Take a deep breath in, 360-degree breath. And then exhale, think about pushing that area at the back of your sports bra into the towel, into the ground. Good, inhale, release. You'll definitely feel some engagement of your core. Big full breath. Exhale, engage. Press the back of your sports bra into the towel, into the ground. Meanwhile, think about if a little creature could run underneath that lower lumbar curve. So we want to maintain that. We don't want to flatten our low back to the mat for this exercise. So pretend there was a little mouse that could run underneath. Inhale, full breath. Exhale, draw lower ribs in. Press the back of your sports bra into the towel, into the earth. Good, now hold here. See if you can hold for a few breaths. Flexing at that mid back point. One more breath in. Exhale, release. Good work, come on up. And we are going to do some spinal cars. These are controlled articular rotations. So it's basically a cat-cow, but we're going really, really slow and controlled so that we can feel each spinal segment at a time move into flexion and extension. So from tabletop, or quadruped, whatever you want to call it, all fours, we'll start down at our pelvis. So think about drawing your pubic bone underneath you, and then we're gonna act like we had a little magnet tracing its way up our spine really slowly. So as you move up the spine, each segment is going to be magnetized towards it. So pubic bone dips under, and then low back lifts up. We're coming into flexion. Mid back lifts up. Upper back lifts up. And then at the top, you can tuck your chin into your chest. Take a breath here. Good. Now, untuck your pelvis. Now there's like a feather that wants to tickle you, so you're gonna like avoid it as it moves up your spine. Untuck your pelvis and then dip your low back, segment by segment. Your mid back. This is really hard, by the way. This is not easy. Your upper back. That feels good. And then extend through your neck. Good. Now we're going to start up at the neck. So take a breath in here first. Tuck chin to chest. Find rounding through the back of the neck, cervical spine. Rounding through the upper thoracic, between the shoulder blades, moving down towards the mid back and lower spine. All the way until your pelvis tucks under. Good. Now starting at the neck again, I feel like this is the hardest one. We are going to unravel our cervical spine. Okay, there's a feather on top, and you're trying to avoid it on the very upper back, between the shoulder blades. Don't cheat at the pelvis yet. Lower ribs at that hinge point, low spine, and then pelvis. Ooh, okay, those are tough. Keep practicing those. Take a video of yourself. Maybe you can see kind of where you get stuck, where everything wants to move in one chunk instead of segmentally. Again, it's super hard, but even just putting that effort forth is going to help. All right, let's find a plank pose. So obviously our core is super important, and on the flip side of things, our glutes are really important. When either of these areas is weak, we tend to lose good engagement and posture, and that can result in low back pain. So you can come up onto your hands, or if we want, we can start on our forearms. Let's walk our knees back. So we're all gonna do a modified version first. Tuck your toes under, press out through your elbows so the area between your shoulder blades lifts up. Good. So instead of having this low back arch, we are gonna engage our glutes, but we're gonna tuck our pelvis under a little bit, drawing our hip bones towards our low ribs. Take some good lateral breaths into the ribs. Now, if you look down and if you see any bulging, anything through the midline, through the center here, this isn't the best exercise for you right now. Totally fine. I would stick to side plank. But hopefully we are early enough in our pregnancy that we're maintaining some tension there, some core strength, but just modify if you need. We don't want to make it worse by pushing through these exercises that our body can't handle the pressure in. So in your plank, if you're feeling good, you can now think about pulling your knees forward and your elbows back. This is going to engage a lot more of your muscles. It's going to make it harder, for sure. Breathe into the back of the ribs, back of the sports bra. Exhale, pull elbows and knees together. Take a peek down, make sure nothing's bulging. Inhale, breathe into the back of the ribs. Exhale, pull knees and elbows together. I'm shaking. Good, one more breath. Exhale, one more contraction. Good, take a rest. We will do a round 2. You can totally stick with what we were just doing, or we can lift up into the full version of plank. If you're ready, plant your hands, or you can stay on your elbows. Tuck your toes. This time, if you're with me, we're gonna lift our knees. Good. So press the ground away. A slight puff at the back of the heart. This is a great exercise to videotape yourself. Make sure you're not doing this or this. We are hugging our thighs, engaging our glutes, drawing our sternum forward. Just holding steady here. Take a peek down. Check out your ribs. Bonus points if you want to slightly draw your hands and your toes together. Super hard. Breathe out through the ribs. Exhale, pull everything in and contract. One more breath like that. Good. Release down. All right, good work. Grab your towel roll or a bigger ball or a block. Any of those items will do. And we're gonna find our tabletop again. So from here, you're gonna have that item of your choice between your legs, because we're eventually gonna squeeze. Tuck onto your toes. Now find that hinge point, T12, L1. Press your palms down. Think about lifting that back area up to the sky. Okay, back of the sports bra is pressing up. Take a breath in here. Exhale, squeeze your legs together. Add a lift of your knees if you're feeling ready for it. Good, drop your knees. Keep that press at the back of the sports bra. Inhale. Exhale, push the ground away. Lift your knees and squeeze the block. You can always take out the lift and squeeze if you'd like. Inhale. Exhale, push the ground away, squeeze the block. Lift your knees, draw your lower ribs, your lower abs in. So if you were to feel that TA, that space in between your hip bones, it's nice and firm and tight, okay? And this will avoid some bulging out through your six-pack ab muscles. We'll do 2 more. Round through the mid-back. Inhale here, big breath. Exhale, squeeze the block, engage pelvic floor and lower TAs. Lift your knees from the mat. Lower them down, breathe in. Exhale, push the ground away, squeeze the block, lift your knees. Perfect. Lower down, shake out your arms. Good. All right. We are going to move into a bird dog, which we've done before, but we're going to add a little bit of a variation, which will bias our glutes a little bit more. So from tabletop, we are actually going to shift our hips back. So we're finding a little bit of a stretch in the glutes. Hips are further back than our knees. Tuck your toes. From here, draw everything in. So we have a glass of water on our back. We're not gonna let it spill. We're not arching, swaying, side bending, dumping, whatever. Okay, so inhale. Exhale, pull everything in. Extend your right leg back. Remember, we are shifting our whole weight back a little bit. Now from here, if you feel good, we're gonna extend our left fingertips forward. You should feel that left glute working to stabilize. Good. Release. Check in, shift your hips back. Take a breath in. Exhale, everything pulls in. We're breathing under a brace. So we're not holding our breath, but we are drawing in and then breathing once everything is engaged. So shift hips back, big breath in. Now lift your left heel back. If everything is steady, reach your right fingertips forward. Good, release. 2 more on each side. Shift your hips back. Inhale. Exhale, lift right leg and left fingertips. I like to take about 2 breaths. And then we'll switch. Briefly shake your hips out and then send them back. Breath in, breath out, lift left heel and right fingertips. Good. Ease out of it. Draw back into it. Big breath in. Exhale, everything engages. Stable through right hand and left knee. Lift right leg and left hand. Peek down at your ribs, they're not flaring. Perfect, ease out of it. Draw back into it. Stretch those glutes, inhale. Exhale. Pelvic floor, lower core, spinal muscles engage, and then we lift left heel and right hand. Beautiful, good work. All right, let's do, I think, 1 more exercise today, and we're gonna come to tall kneeling, so standing on your shins. Oftentimes, we've done hip hinges a couple weeks ago, and I didn't give this cue, but it's a good cue to avoid losing that rib cage to pelvis or diaphragm to pelvic floor alignment. Oftentimes, when we do a hip hinge pattern or we're leaning forward, we tend to arch or dump down too much, either of those things. So a good way to, everyday life is not perfect. Real life, you're gonna do these ranges of motion and movements that aren't perfectly aligned. Totally understandable. But as a whole, if we're doing heavier exercises or lifting something heavier, it's gonna be smart that if we can spend the time to set ourselves up well, overall, we're gonna keep our backs a little bit happier. But I totally believe in training other ranges of motion too. Side note. Okay, so again, bring your fingers to your ASIS, your hip bone, and then bring your thumbs to your lower ribs. This distance shouldn't change. So it's not gonna shorten, and it's not gonna lengthen, okay? So keep that distance the same. Good, now we're gonna hip hinge. So send your hips back towards your heels. Your chest is lowering down towards the mat. And then keep that same distance as we then stack shoulders over pelvis over knees. Good, hinge back. That distance stays the same between your fingers and your thumbs, and lift back up. Notice if you're shifting weight into one leg more than the other. Take a video from the front so that way you can see, oh, I totally went back one side or another. And slow it down. Slow it down so you can really feel even weight through both legs, both hips. Good, lift back up. Let's do 2 more. Another thing you can do is put one hand on the front of your belly and one hand on your low back. And don't let one hand basically like bulge out. I prefer the other cue. It's easier for me to maintain, but whatever works for you. Last time, hinge back, sit your hips back towards your heels. Good, ribs and pelvis stay in the same spot. Engage your glutes, lift back up. Okay, perfect. So massaging out our low back, working on our good breathing as usual, finding some mobility in that T12 lower rib, upper low back area. And as always, learning to properly manage pressure with core engagement and then properly engage our glutes and work on hip mobility. All those things combined should help your back pain a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this class. Keep with these exercises, especially as things grow more and more. Obviously modify as you need. And then I would recommend doing these exercises one more time through, either right now or later this week. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.